If you feel safer alone than with people, this may go beyond introversion. This reflects deeper psychological patterns. Because there's a real difference between someone who simply prefers quiet and someone whose nervous system genuinely releases the moment nobody else is in the room. You know that feeling, the door closes, you're finally alone, and something that was wound tight all day just lets go. You weren't in danger. Nobody was difficult. The conversation was perfectly fine. But your body didn't know that, and that's the part nobody talks about. This isn't shyness. This isn't something to fix with more socializing or better boundaries. This is a deeply structured psychological pattern, built early, in response to something real. There are 7 traits that develop in people who feel genuinely safer alone, and once you see them, you'll never call this introversion again. Trait 1. Your nervous system never rests around people. This one doesn't live in your mind. It lives in your body. Somewhere in your history, the people around you weren't predictable. Moods shifted without warning. Love felt present in certain moments and withdrawn in others. The emotional temperature of a room could change before a single word was spoken, and you learned to feel it coming. Your nervous system was doing exactly what it was built to do, learning, mapping, keeping you safe, and the lesson it received consistently enough. People are unpredictable. Unpredictable means prepare. So, it built a response, a low, continuous alertness in the presence of others. Not paranoia, just a quiet readiness. A scanning that never fully stops when people are close, because stopping, once upon a time, felt like a risk you couldn't afford. That response was intelligent. It protected you, but it never turned off. It followed you into adulthood, into safe relationships, into rooms full of people who mean you no harm. Your nervous system doesn't know that yet. It's still running the old program, still scanning, still preparing, just in case. This is why solitude feels like more than a preference. When you're alone, the scanning stops, the readiness drops. Your body finally rests. And for a nervous system that learned it couldn't rest around people, that rest feels like the first full breath of the day. But it's not just your body that changes around people. Something happens to your sense of self, too. Trait 2. You lose yourself around people. Something happens when others enter the room. You adjust, not dramatically, not even consciously, but you read the person, read the energy, read what the moment requires, and almost automatically you calibrate. You soften certain things, amplify others, become a version of yourself shaped around whoever is in front of you. You're not pretending, but you are managing continuously. And management costs something that simply existing should never cost. Psychology calls this high self-monitoring, the automatic reshaping of how we present ourselves in response to social cues. And in people where this runs deep, the effect accumulates invisibly. One small adjustment per interaction, multiplied across every conversation, every day. Most people never realize it's happening. They just know they feel drained. They just know that company, even good company, costs them something they can't name. Now you can name it. You're not just socializing, you're shape-shifting, slightly, continuously. And the energy that costs is real. Then you're alone. And something exhales, something more fundamental than tiredness. You return to yourself, the version of you that exists without an audience, more honest, more layered, more entirely yours, surfaces again. This is why solitude isn't just pleasant for people with this trait. It's where the self that disperses in company gets to come back together. And there's usually a reason why that self learned to disappear in the first place. Trait 3. Experience taught you to be careful. You didn't decide to feel safer alone. You were taught, not through instruction, through experience. The slow accumulating evidence of what happened when you let people close enough to matter. Maybe you were vulnerable with someone and felt dismissed. Maybe you trusted someone with something real and found the trust was misplaced. Maybe you needed someone, genuinely, openly, and they were inconsistent, present in body, but completely unreachable in the ways that actually mattered. Each moment was data, and your mind drew a conclusion that felt completely logical. Connection involves risk. Solitude does not. That conclusion wasn't irrational. It was built from real pain and a real history that deserved far more safety than it received. But here's what changes everything. Conclusions formed in pain outlast the pain itself. They become invisible lenses through which new experiences get interpreted, before those experiences have had the chance to prove themselves different. So, even when someone safe is present, even when connection is genuinely warm and low risk, something in you stays slightly braced, slightly prepared for the thing that hasn't happened yet, but, based on history, feels like it eventually will. Not because you don't want closeness, but because you've learned, more thoroughly than most, exactly what closeness can cost. And solitude costs nothing, makes no promises it can break, holds no potential for the specific pain that comes from letting someone in and finding them unreliable. In solitude, the risk is zero. And for someone with your history, zero risk isn't emptiness. If you've recognized yourself so far, the next 3 traits are where most people completely misunderstand themselves. Because what comes next isn't about other people anymore. It's about what's been quietly happening inside you for years without a name. Trait 4. You absorb more than anyone around you. Knows you don't just experience social interaction. You absorb it, the conversation others forget within the hour. You're still carrying it, turning it over, processing what wasn't said as carefully as what was, noticing the shift in energy that happened midway through, the one nobody else even detected. Most people assume this means something is wrong with them. Nothing is wrong with you. You are processing at a depth most people never access. When you're around others, you're receiving interaction at a register that runs beneath ordinary conversation. The emotional undercurrents, the unspoken tensions, the atmospheric shifts others walk through without noticing. You notice everything, and by the time it ends, you're not just ordinarily tired, you're saturated, carrying more than you arrived with, more than anyone handed you intentionally, more than anyone knew they were giving. When you're absorbing that much from every single interaction, recovery time starts exceeding the time you have available. Solitude stops being a preference and becomes a biological requirement. You were never antisocial. You were processing at a depth that made recovery non-negotiable. And the people who told you to just push through it, socialize more, be more present, they never understood what they were actually asking. But for some people, the relationship with solitude goes even deeper than recovery. It goes all the way back to where safety first lived. Trait 5. Alone is where you first learn to feel safe. Not all aloneness is chosen. Some of it is simply what you were given. Some people grew up where connection was physically present but emotionally absent. People in the room, but unreachable. Surrounded and still somehow, quietly, consistently, alone. That kind of aloneness teaches something chosen. Solitude never could. It teaches you how to be your own company, how to build an interior world rich enough to sustain you when the exterior one isn't offering what you need. And when alone is where you first learn to feel safe, that leaves an imprint that doesn't disappear when circumstances change. Solitude becomes foundational, the emotional baseline from which everything else gets measured. But here's what most people with this history never fully see. You can spend an entire lifetime building a relationship with your solitude so complete, so perfectly self-sustaining, that you stop noticing the walls you built to maintain it. Not because you don't want connection, but because wanting connection and feeling safe enough to receive it are two entirely different experiences. Trait 6. Alone is the only place your real self exists. In solitude, you don't have to adjust, don't have to monitor, don't have to present a version of yourself calibrated to someone else's comfort. You simply exist. And for someone who has spent years managing their presentation, protecting their interior world, staying quietly alert in the presence of others, that simple existence is not a small thing. It is everything. The thoughts you have alone are different from the thoughts you have in company. More honest, more layered, more completely yours. The feelings that surface in solitude never quite make it into the social world. Not because they're wrong, but because they belong to a part of you that learned privacy was safer than visibility. Most people never realize this is happening. They just know the version of themselves that exists alone feels more real than the one that shows up around others. They just know that no matter how good the company is, something gets left behind when they walk into a room. That something is the most real part of them. Psychology calls this a rich private self, an interior life so fully developed that the outer social world feels like a translation that loses something essential in the process. And here's what matters most. This is not pathology. Whether this developed from temperament or experience, it's not evidence of being broken. It's evidence of adaptation. And adaptations can be understood and, when needed, gently adjusted. It is the natural result of a mind that turned inward, creatively, resourcefully, completely, because the outer world did not always feel safe enough to turn toward. You built something real inside yourself, a depth of self-reflection most people never develop, a relationship with your own inner life more honest than most people ever manage with anyone else. The solitude was never the problem. It was the solution to something painful, to something early, to something that asked far more of you than it ever had any right to ask. Trait 7. You think better alone, and part of you knows the world can't handle what you find there. When you're alone, your mind goes somewhere it can't go around people, not just deeper, differently. The thoughts that surface in solitude aren't the ones you'd reach for in conversation. They're slower, more uncomfortable, more honest than anything you'd say out loud. You follow an idea all the way to the end of it, without editing, without reading the room, without stopping at the point where it becomes too much for someone else to hold. And over time, you've realized something quietly devastating. Not everyone processes experience in this depth or direction, and most conversations can't go where your mind naturally goes. So, you stop trying to bring people with you, not out of arrogance, out of the accumulated experience of arriving somewhere real and finding no one there, of sharing something that genuinely mattered and watching it land wrong, of learning, slowly and thoroughly, that your interior world operates at a frequency that ordinary social exchange simply doesn't reach. Psychology describes this as a mismatch between internal complexity and external expression, a gap that widens every time genuine thought goes unmet with genuine understanding. And the loneliness of that mismatch is its own specific kind of pain, because it means you're not just choosing solitude for rest or safety or recovery. You're choosing it because it's the only place where the full extent of your thinking doesn't have to be managed, softened, or translated into something smaller than it actually is. Alone, your mind is finally allowed to be the size it actually is. And for someone who has spent years making themselves smaller so others could stay comfortable, that is not a preference. That is oxygen. So, if you have always felt safer alone, if solitude is not where you go when you're lonely, but where you go when you finally get to be real, understand what that actually means. Your nervous system learned caution from real experience. Your sense of self learned to protect itself for real reasons. Your need for solitude is not damage, not antisocial tendency, not an inability to connect. It is the accurate, intelligent response of someone whose interior world became the safest place available. And that is not something to be ashamed of, but there is a difference worth knowing. A difference between solitude that restores you and solitude that has quietly, gradually become a wall. Both feel like safety. Both feel like relief. But one returns you to yourself so you can move back toward the world. The other keeps you safe from pain by keeping you safe from everything that might have healed it. You are allowed to need time alone, deeply, unapologetically, without explanation. And you are also allowed, slowly, carefully, on your own terms, to let people in. Not all people, not without discernment, but the right people in the right moments, in ways that don't ask you to become less, but simply, finally, to be exactly who you already are. Because the version of you that exists in solitude, the honest one, the unguarded one, the one that never has to adjust or perform, that version deserves to be known. If this video gave language to something you've carried for years, stay. There's more here worth understanding. This channel exists for people who feel deeply, protect quietly, and have spent too long wondering why they feel most like themselves when no one else is around. Subscribe to Unfelt and press the bell icon to all, so you never miss new videos. There's more here that was made for you.